You can read it out loud, if you don't start crying first. My sister's voice sliced through the low restaurant chatter, sweet enough for everyone around us to hear, sharp enough that only I felt the sting. The table laughed. Not with warmth. With anticipation. Like they were waiting to watch me break. Mom lifted her wine glass, eyes glittering. Go on, she said. Your dad wrote you a final goodbye letter. From all of us. He stretched the words like chewing gum. Closure, she added. You needed it. My sister already had her phone up, camera pointed directly at my face. Recording my humiliation like it was her birthday wish come true. For a second the room felt smaller. The lights harsher. My heart beat louder. A memory flashed, Dad calling me the mistake child. But I swallowed it quietly. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I didn't even blink. I just breathed. Then I turned to the invisible audience around me. Those who had no idea what this family could do to a person, and said softly, Hi everyone, my name is Arya Vale. I smiled, calm and steady, even though every nerve in my chest felt like cracked glass. I'm the daughter they love to break for entertainment. My sister snorted. Can you hurry up? I'm running out of storage. Dad slid the envelope across the table. White paper. Black ink. A whole childhood's worth of rejection sealed inside. But they didn't notice something. Something small but important. My hand didn't shake when I took it. Because the truth was simple. I wasn't the same girl they spent years mocking, belittling, isolating, and blaming. The girl they expected to crumble at a dinner table? She didn't exist anymore. I opened the envelope. Neat handwriting. Signed by each of them. Final. A letter meant to push me out of their lives. As if they hadn't done that already. I folded it carefully, slid it back inside and whispered. Thank you. Mom blinked. What? I stood, pushed my chair in and adjusted my coat like their cruelty was nothing more than dust on my sleeve. I appreciate the goodbye, I said softly. Truly. My sister zoomed in on my face, expecting tears, anger, something. Anything. But all she captured was calm. As they had no idea. Absolutely none. That while they were busy writing a final goodbye, I had already prepared something far bigger. And far quieter. Something that would change everything. I walked out of that restaurant with their letter in my hand. And my secret already in motion. The cold night air hit my face the moment the restaurant doors closed behind me. I let the letter rest in my palm, its weight suddenly insignificant. Their words had no power anymore. Not when I knew what I knew. I walked toward my car slowly, heels tapping against the pavement, each step steadier than the last. Behind me, muffled through the glass, I heard laughter burst from the table again. They thought I'd left defeated, embarrassed, broken. But the real show hadn't even started. I sat inside my car, turned on the overhead light and opened the envelope once more, not to read it but to memorize the moment. The moment where they thought they'd ended something. When in truth, they'd just begun a countdown. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Everything's ready. Just give the word. I stared at those 5 words. My breath steadied. My pulse calmed. I typed back only one sentence. Midnight. As planned. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the silence fill the car. Letting the last piece of guilt dissolve. Inside the restaurant, I watched them laughing through the window. Mom tossing her hair back. Dad waving for another drink. My sister replaying my reaction on her phone like it was the highlight of her year. They celebrated a goodbye. They had no idea it was a beginning. A beginning of something they would never forget. Something already set in motion. Midnight wasn't far. Midnight arrived quietly. No thunder, no dramatic sky, no omen. Just stillness. The kind of silence that makes people uneasy without knowing why. I parked a street away from my parents' house. Engine off, lights off, hidden under the shadow of an old maple tree. Their windows glowed warmly, the kind of glow that suggested peace, but only from the outside. Inside, I knew exactly what it looked like. Mom pacing after too much wine. Dad dropping his jacket on the nearest chair. My sister loudly recounting my reaction, like a comedian performing a set. I stepped out of the car and slipped my phone from my coat. One tap. And everything I'd prepared began unfolding. A low hum vibrated through the quiet street as the servers went live. My encrypted drive opening access to the files I'd collected for years. Screenshots. Videos. Transactions. Voicemails. Every insult. Every betrayal. Every secret they hid behind the pretty curtain of a happy family. I didn't need revenge that screamed. I wanted the kind that whispered, then echoed. My phone buzzed again. Uploads initiated. Estimated completion. 3:14 a.m. Perfect. I leaned against my car watching frost slowly climb the edges of the windshield. My breath clouded in front of me, steady, calm. In their living room, shadows moved behind the curtains. Unaware. Unprepared. Thought of that letter. Their final goodbye. Signed by the same hands that pushed me away for years. No. Those hands would tremble by sunrise. Because truth doesn't knock. It breaks the door quietly. At 3:14 a.m. the street was silent. The kind of silence that makes even the wind pause. My phone vibrated once. Uploads complete. Just 2 words. But they shifted the entire night. I exhaled slowly, watching the final cloud of breath disappear into the darkness. No fireworks. No satisfaction. Just quiet certainty. Inside their house I saw movement. Dad passing by the window rubbing his forehead. My sister's light flicked on upstairs. Mom's shadow moving in the kitchen. They were awake. They could feel something even if they didn't know what. I got back into my car, placed my hands on the steering wheel and waited. 3 minutes. 10. Then it began. My sister's scream shattered the stillness. Raw, sharp, shocked. Her bedroom light flickered rapidly, shadows pacing across the walls. A beat later, Mom's voice erupted downstairs. Not angry. Not scolding. Panicked. I could imagine the screen she was staring at. Her carefully curated social image cracking open like glass. Years of hidden cruelty revealed in a single scroll. Dad stormed through the hallway shouting her name, then my sister's. Another alert tone chimed inside the house. Then another. And another. Every file I'd queued was going public. Scheduled releases on platforms they couldn't control. Group chats they didn't belong to. Inboxes that would wake the whole town by morning. Not lies. Not exaggerations. Just their truth. Unfiltered. Undeniable. Their final goodbye had turned into the beginning of their unraveling. And I hadn't even stepped out of the car. The longer I watched the house, the louder the chaos became. Curtains jerked open. Lights snapped on. Shadows rushed across rooms that once felt too powerful to confront. Mom stumbled into the living room, phone in hand, her face pale even from a distance. Dad followed, shouting something I couldn't hear but I could guess. Blame. Accusation. Denial. Then my sister ran downstairs, mascara smeared, clutching her phone like it was burning her. She collapsed onto the couch, shaking her head over and over. Her voice cracked through the window. Make it stop. Somebody make it stop. Dad slammed his hand against the wall. Mom grabbed his arm. They looked terrified. Not of me. But of themselves. Of what they'd done. Of who they actually were, now visible to the world. I rested my head against the cold car seat, letting the moment breathe. Letting the years of swallowed pain settle into something steadier, heavier, but clean. My phone buzzed once more. Secondary release begins at 7 a.m. Confirm. I typed. Proceed. Because this wasn't revenge born from rage. This was truth finally given room to speak. Inside the house, Dad hurled his phone onto the floor. It bounced once, then slid across the hardwood. Mom covered her face. My sister started crying so loudly I could hear it through the glass. I watched all of them unravel. The same people who sat across from me hours earlier, laughing at the idea of letting me go. They wanted me out of their lives. They were about to understand what that really felt like. Dad suddenly grabbed his coat and stormed toward the front door. For a split second I thought he might come outside, search the street, try to find me. He walked to the driveway, yanked open his car door, and began rummaging through the glove compartment like a man searching for a lifeline. Mom followed him out barefoot, shivering, clutching her robe. Mark, stop. You can't fix this, she cried, voice cracking in the cold. Dad didn't hear her. Or maybe he refused to. He kept muttering something, low, frantic, desperate. My sister stood in the doorway, hugging herself, tears streaming down her face. The same girl who recorded my humiliation just hours ago now looked like a frightened child staring at a house fire. She whispered into the night. Arya, what did you do? I didn't answer. The dark held my silence like a shield. Dad finally pulled out a small lockbox from his car, one I knew very well. Inside were documents he never wanted anyone to see. The same ones he thought were hidden. The same ones I'd secured copies of long before tonight. He opened it, flipped through the papers with trembling hands, then froze. Whatever page he stopped on, it was the one that broke him. He sank onto the driver's seat, head in his hands, breath fogging the air. Mom stood beside him, helpless. My sister collapsed onto the porch steps. And from my shadowed corner of the street, I felt nothing but a quiet, steady certainty. They were finally experiencing the weight they had thrown on me for years. But now, there was no one coming to save them. Dad's breathing turned fast, shallow, like he couldn't pull enough air into his lungs. Mom knelt beside him, gripping his arm, whispering his name over and over. But he wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on that one document. The one proving everything he'd buried years ago was now uncovered. My sister rocked on the porch steps, scrolling through her phone as notification after notification exploded across her screen. Every secret, every lie, every whisper they thought would stay hidden. Their world wasn't cracking, it was collapsing. And all I did was watch. No anger. No satisfaction. Just a quiet release inside my chest, like exhaling after holding my breath for years. My phone lit up again. Final release scheduled for sunrise. Last confirmation. I looked at their house. The fear, the unraveling, the truth finally pressing down on them. And I whispered, yes. Sunrise painted their house in soft gold. A gentle light over a ruined kingdom. Inside, I watched the final wave of truth hit them all at once. Phones buzzing. Voices breaking. Silence following like a verdict. They had given me a final goodbye. But this was their goodbye. To the image they protected. To the lies they lived. To the control they thought they had over me. I turned my key in the ignition, calm, steady. No revenge. Just truth finally set free. As I drove away, one thought settled quietly.